Section 378. Genesis 4:11. And now I curse on you from the ground. I curse on you from the ground. Now I curse on you from the ground, which opened its mouth, receiving your brother's blood from your hand. A curse on you from the ground means that the schism made Cain turn away. Schism, like heresy.
Schism.
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 Schism made Cain turn away, which opened its mouth, symbolizes what the schism taught. Receiving your brother's blood from your hand is the fact that it inflicted violence on charity and extinguished it. This symbolism can be seen from the preceding sections. The symbolism of a curse as something turned away was also shown before in 2045 section 245. Weekend and Lotham.
Loathsome.
Wicked and loathsome. Acts, that is, acts of hatred, are what turn us away and make us look downward, only toward bodily and earthly concerns, or, in other words, toward the things of hell. This happens when we send charity into exile and extinguish it, which shatters the bond between the Lord and us. The bond. Yeah, like bones. Bones. Between the Lord and us, only charity, which is love and mercy, maintains the bond. Faith without maintains the bond. Supports, maintains the bond. Faith without charity is incapable of doing so. Since it is no faith but mere knowledge of a kind that even the devil's horde can acquire, they are further able to use it for deliberately deceiving the upright and impersonating angels of light. Upright and impersonating angels of light. Impersonating. Like personify. Personify. Impersonating angels of light. Personating. The worst preachers sometimes do the same, with a zeal that seems to spring from piety, although nothing is farther from their minds than what they utter with their lips. Can there be a person with judgment so unsound as to believe that a memorized faith can have any effect by itself, or that mere thought based on that faith can have any effect? On the contrary, we all know from our own experience that no one can tell the real value of another's statements and assertions of if they do not arise from the will or from genuine intent. It is the will and intention that please us and connect us to one another. Our real, our real identity is whatever we will, not what we think or say without willing it. Our will is what determines our nature and character, because it is the will that has an effect. If, on the other hand, our thoughts are good, then the sense of faith, which is charity, lies inside the thought because goodwill is present. But if we say our thoughts are good while we live an evil life, we can never desire anything but evil, in which case faith is out of the question. Genesis 4:12. Maybe someone wants to read this verse.
Yeah, hello,
Gen-
hello. I can continue. Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. Genesis 4, 4 and I forget how it calls. Chapter 4
4:12.
and
12.
yeah, 12. Yes, but I mean the exact. Wait a second. Sorry, I need to translate it. Yeah. Yeah, it is verse, I think.
Verse.
Yeah,
Verse
yeah,
Genesis 4:12.
yeah. Chapter 4, verse 12. When you cultivate the ground, it will no longer yield its strength to you. I wonder and forget if you will be on the earth. Cultivating the ground symbolizes developing this schism or heresy. No longer yielding its strength to you means that it is sterile. Being a wanderer and fugitive on the earth means not knowing what is true or good. The meaning of cultivating the ground as developing the schism or heresy is established by the symbolism of the ground dealt with just above. Just above. It is evident from this and from the words themselves that no longer yielding its strength means being sterile. Just say, what is sterile? Can you?
Well, it's like pure. I think it's like pure,
Yeah, yeah,
clear.
yeah, yeah. I've got it.
Sterile.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like in medicine. In
yeah.
medicine, you.
Sterilized. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sterile.
Sterile,
sterile.
clean.
Yeah, the same thing is also evident from the fact that those who profess faith without charity and are professing no faith is not. Uh, okay.
Go on, because
Okay.
you can read this verse like for this verse
Uh-huh.
and its
The,
explanation.
uh-huh. The symbolism of being a wanderer and fugitive. What is fugitive?
Fugitive, like refugee,
Fugitive.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
refugee.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Run away, run away.
Yeah.
I
Wanderer and fugitive.
I think you say this word not correctly.
Symbolize.
Sim-
Symbol.
I think it's symbolism. You said
Let's.
symbolism. You said symbolism.
Symbolism.
Okay,
Symbolism.
symbolism. Okay.
hmm
Symbolism of being a wanderer and fugitive of the earth is not knowing what is true or good can be seen from the symbolism of wandering and fleeing in the world, as in Jeremiah. The prophets and priests wander blind in the streets; they are defiled with blood. things that they themselves can touch, they touch with their clothes. Lamentation, yeah, yeah. The prophets stand for those who teach, the priests for those who live according to what is taught, wandering blind in the streets, not knowing what is good or true. In Amos, one plot has received rain, and plot on which it has not rained is drying up. As a result, 2 or 3 cities will wander to one city to drink water, and
Plot like what is it? Story.
Plot.
Plot. It's like plan.
I think it may be area or
In this sense, yeah. One
yeah.
plot has received rain. Yeah, what does it mean in this sense?
Yeah,
One
I think
plot.
it's area. It mean area.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Area like where
place or piece of earth,
yeah,
land plot,
area. Land
land.
plot. Yeah.
Uh, will not get enough. Amos chapter 4, verse 7 and 8. The plot that was arraigned on the teachings about faith that come from charity. The plot or piece of turf on which it did not rain is teaching about faith that are devoid of charity. Likewise, wandering somewhere to drink water is trying to find out what is true. In Hosea, Ephraim has been struck, their root has dried up, they will not produce fruit. My God will reject them because they did not heed him, and they will be wanderers among the nations. Hosea chapter 4 and verse 16 and 17. Ephraim stands for an intelligent understanding of truth or faith, because he was Joseph's firstborn. The root that dried up stands for charity. That
Heed. I forgot heed. What is it? Heed.
Heed.
Heed like watch closely. Yeah, attention. Heed.
Mhm, mhm,
Listen. They did not heed him. Like they did not listen him. Listen to him.
yeah, cannot produce fruit. Wonders among the nations mean that they do not know what is true or good. In Jeremiah, go up against Arabia and lay waste to the children of the east. Flee, wander far and wide. Hazar's inhabitants have gone down below to live. Jeremiah
It,
chapter
it's,
14.
it said vast it's waste.
Waste. Yes, sorry.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
sure. It's
Waste.
waste. Yeah,
Waste. Like garbage.
yeah. Uh, Arabia and the children of the east stand for the possession of heavenly riches or of anything touching the life. When these things have been laid waste and can produce nothing good, they too are said to flee and wander, or to be fugitives and wanderers. Hazar's inhabitants, those who possess the spiritual riches that come with faith, are said to go down below, that is, to perish. In Isaiah, all your leaders wander about together on account of the bow they were put in chains. From far away they fled. Isaiah chapter 22, verse 3. It's about the valley of vision, or the delusion that faith is possible without charity. So verse 14 below say that anyone who professes a faith that does not rise out of charity is a wanderer and fugitive that is knows nothing about truth or goodness.
hmm Okay, it's my turn. Genesis 4:13, and Cain said to Jehovah, "My wickedness is too great to be taken away." Cain said to Jehovah symbolizes a limited confession that he was in evil's grip, the confession resulting from a kind of internal pain. Wickedness too great to be taken away symbolizes his consequent despair. Mhm. This shows that a modicum of good, modicum, what is it?
Modicum.
Modicum. It's like
Okay.
little bit. Mhm. What? Sorry? Modicum. It's like little bit. Modicum of good still remained in Cain. All the good linked to charity later died out. However, seen in Lamech, the subject of verse is 19.
Read.
Genesis Genesis 4:14.
May I read?
Look, sorry, what?
May I read?
Yeah, when I will finish because I started to read this. It was so short. I was reading Genesis 4:13, and you can read after me in your turn. Genesis 4:14. Look, you have thrown me out today off the face of the ground, and I will be hidden from your face, and I will be a wanderer and a fugitive on the earth. And it will come about that anyone who finds me will kill me. Be, being thrown off the being thrown off the face. I hear echo from someone's microphone. Being thrown off the face. Can you turn off your mic if you don't speak? Because I hear echo. I hear myself through your microphone. Being thrown off the face of the ground symbolizes being cut off from all the church's truth. Being hidden from your face symbolizes being cut off from all the good inherent in a loving faith. Being a wanderer and fugitive on the earth is not knowing what is true or good. Anyone who finds me will kill me means that all evil and falsity would destroy him. The symbolism of being thrown out of the face of the ground as being cut off from all the churches, truth is established by the symbolism of the ground. In its genuine sense, it is the church or those people who make up the church. And so, for whatever belief the church proclaims, as noted earlier, the nuance, nuance, how to pronounce nuance?
Nuance.
Nuance. It's like nuance. The nuance comes from the subject under discussion. So, if a person wrongly adopts a belief that is a schism or heresy, that person too is called to the ground. Being thrown off the face of the ground here then means no longer knowing the church's truth. The symbolism of being hidden from your face as being cut off from all the good inherent in a loving faith is established by the symbolism of Jehovah's face. Jehovah's face, as previously stated, is mercy, the source of all the good taught by a loving faith. So the good that faith teaches is symbolized here by faith. Being a wanderer and fugitive on the earth is not knowing what is true or good as above. In consequence, anyone who finds me will kill me means that all evil and falsity would destroy him. The situation is this: when we deprive ourselves of charity, we cut ourselves off from the Lord. Charity, love for others, and mercy is the only thing that binds us to the Lord. Without charity, there is disconnection. When there is disconnection, we are left to ourselves or to our own devices. Under those circumstances, every thought we think is false and every purpose we intend is evil. These are the things that kill a person or cause a person to be lifeless. Moses shows how those who succumb, succumb,
Succumb.
succumb, succumb to falsity and evil, fall prey to an unremitting fear of murder. Unremitting.
Unremitting.
Unremitting. It's like continuous. Unremitting. Fear of murder. And your land will be a ruin, and your city is a wasteland. Those of you who are left, I will make their heart soft in the lands of their enemies, and the sound of a driven leaf will pursue them, and they will flee as if fleeing a sword, and fall when no one pursues them. And they will each collide with their brother as if before a sword, though no one pursues them. In Isaiah, traitors betray and traitorously commit the treachery of traitors. And it will happen that one fleeing from a terrifying sound will fall into the pit, and one climbing out of the middle of the pit will be caught in the snare. Their transgression will weigh on them, therefore they will fall and not rise again. In Jeremiah, here I am bringing a horror on you from all your surroundings. You will each be driven out before it, and there will be no one to gather the wanderers. In Isaiah, on a horse you will flee, and so you will flee, and on a swift mount.
Хуйня это.
What?
Я тебе говорю, это хуйня.
And on a swift mount we will ride, so your pursuers will grow
Окей,
swift.
окей.
1,000 will flee at the reproach of one, and at the reproach of 5 you will flee. This place and others in the world depict those who are subject to falsity and evil, how they flee and how they fear they will be killed. Everything causes them fear because no one is protecting them. All who have evil and falsity inside hate their neighbor. Therefore, each of them is eager to kill the others. The best evidence that those under the sway of falsity and evil are afraid. Sway.
Sway.
It's like power. Sway of falsity and evil are afraid of everyone is provided by evil spirits in the other life. The ones who have deprived themselves of all charity wander and flee. Everywhere they go, whatever communities they may happen upon, perceive immediately on their first approach what kind of person each of them is. That kind of perception is possible in the other life. These communities not only drive such spirits off, but also punish them severely and in fact would like to kill them if they could. They will take enormous delight, enormous like huge, large, enormous delight in punishing and torturing each other. And this their greatest joy consists. And to reveal a secret, falsity and evil themselves lie at the root, since what one person desires to do to another returns on that person's own head. Falsity and evil carry with them their own punishment and the souls of the fear of punishment. Okay, who wants to read next?
Me.
Verse. Go ahead.
Genesis chapter 4, verse 15. And Jehovah said to him, therefore anyone who kills Cain will suffer sevenfold vengeance. And Jehovah put a mark on Cain, that no one who found him should strike him. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer sevenfold vengeance means that there was a sacred ban on violating the faith that was detached in this way. Jehovah put a mark on Cain that no one should strike him is the fact that the Lord singled out that
That faith. Mhm.
faith in a special way in order to preserve it. Before I explain the symbolism of these things on the inner plane, the nature of faith needs to be understood. The people of the earliest church were such that they acknowledged no other faith than faith from love, so much so that they did not even want to say the word faith. Everything involved in faith they subsumed
What is it?
under the idea
Some,
of love
some
from the Lord.
subsumed, maybe subsumed. Let's
Subsumed.
see.
Subsumed.
Subsumed. You're correct.
In faith
Subsumed
was
is like.
under the idea of love
Mhm.
from the
Subsumed.
Lord. Heavenly angels described above are the same way. It was foreseen, though, that the human race would not maintain this character but would split faith off from love for the Lord and make it into a doctrine of its own. So it was also provided that the faith would indeed be split off, but in such a way that through it, or through a knowledge of it, the Lord would give us a heart for charity. In this way, knowledge or hearing the message would come first. Then, through that knowledge or hearing the Lord would give us the gift of charity, that is, love for our neighbor and mercy. The charity acquired by this not only would be inseparable from faith, but also would constitute faith's principal concern. Afterward, conscience took the place of the perception that the earliest church had enjoyed. Conscience, built up through the faith that is attached to charity, would speak from within, not explaining what was true about affirming that a particular thing was true, and this because the Lord had said so in the Word. For the most part, the churches that came after the flood, including the early Christian church, the first church following the Lord's coming, adopted this character. The same the criterion distinguishes spiritual spiritual angels from heavenly angels. Now, as these things were foreseen and provided in order to prevent the human race from dying an eternal death, the present verse says that no one was to do violence to Cain, who symbolizes a detached faith. It also says that a mark was placed on him, that is, that the Lord singled faith out in a special way in order to preserve it. This is hidden knowledge that has never before come to light. The Lord had same thing in mind when he spoke of marriage and as that
Unix.
eunuchs in Matthew. There are eunuchs who were born so from their mother's womb, and there are eunuchs who were made so by others. And there are eunuchs who made themselves eunuchs for the sake of God's kingdom. Those who can understand, let them understand. Matthew chapter 19 verse 12. Eunuch applies to those who enter into the heavenly marriage. The ones who are like heavenly angels are called those born so from their mother's womb. The ones who are like spiritual angels are called these made so by others. The ones who are like an angelic spirits who participate in that marriage not so much from charity as from obedience are called those who made themselves so. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer sevenfold vengeance means there was a sacred ban on violating the faith detached in this way. This is established by the symbolism of Cain as a detached faith and of seven as a sacred ban. The number seven was held sacred as is known because of the 6 days of creation and because of the seventh day, which is the heavenly kind of person, on which there is peace, repose, a Sabbath. This is why the spiritual of the Jewish religion, the rituals of the Jewish religion so often involve the number seven, and each time it is seen to stand for something sacred.
I think you said correctly first. Rituals, like not rituals like this.
Rituals.
Rituals, yeah. The first you said correctly, but after it you said rituals. Rituals. Something sacred.
For this reason, different stretches of time, long and short, were divided in seven and called weeks. One instance is the long periods before the coming of the Messiah in Daniel chapter 9, verses 24 and 25. Laban and Jacob call up period of 7 years a week in Genesis chapter 29, verses 27 and 28. So wherever the number 7 occurs, it is considered as standing for something sacred, or else for a sacred ban, as in David. 7 times in a day do I praise you. Psalm chapter 119, verse 160. In Isaiah, the light of the moon will be like the light of the sun, and the light of the sun will be 7 times as strong, like the light of 7 days. Isaiah chapter 30, verse 26. Here the sun is love, and the moon is faith from love, which will be like love. Just as the stages of a person's regeneration are divided into six, which precede the seventh or the stage of being heavenly, so too are the stages of devastation, which continues until nothing heavenly remains. This was represented by the Jews' main captivities, including the last in Babylon, a captivity of 7 ages or 70 years, and several times it is said that the land was to rest during its Sabbath. Devastation was also represented by Nebuchadnezzar in Daniel. His heart will change from that of a human, and the heart of an animal will be given to him until 7 seasons change upon him. Concerning the devastation of the final days as described by John, I saw another sign in the sky, great and awesome. 7 angels having the 7 final plagues. Revelation chapter 11 verse 2 says that the holy city will be trampled for 42 months, which is 6 times 7. In the same author, I saw a book written inside on the back, sealed with 7 seals. Accordingly, different severities and levels of punishment were expressed in sevens, as in Moses. If after all this you do not obey me,
What is severities? Severities.
severity, the hard, the difficult,
Severities.
the harshness,
Severities.
severity.
Severities. Severities, like cruelty. In this, accordingly, different and levels. It's like in sense of levels. Like maybe like in this sense, like degree cruelty. Maybe I don't know. Severities. Okay.
Will castigate you 7 times harder for your sins. In David, return 7 times as much into our neighbor's lap. Since a sanction was placed on the violation of faith, then, because faith,
Castigate It's like gate. What is it? Castigate.
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 Castigate. You.
Criticize.
Yeah. Like punish. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Punish. Criticize. Mm-hmm. Scourge. Mm-hmm.
Would be of service, as has already been said. The present verse states that the person who kills Cain will suffer sevenfold vengeance. The meaning of Jehovah put a mark on Cain that no one should strike him, as the fact that the Lord singled fate out in a special way in order to preserve it is established by the symbolism of a mark and of putting a mark on anyone and singling something out. In Ezekiel, for example, Jehovah said, "Pass through the middle of the city, through the middle of Jerusalem, and you are to make a mark. That is, make a designation on the foreheads of the men who are groaning and sighing over all the abomination."
Mm-hmm. Singling. Singling.
Singling.
Singling.
Singling. Singling is like in diction. We can see in dictionary maybe a singling in the sense like not married, mm, consisting of or having only one part, feature, or portion. Singling. hmm Okay. hmm
Marking their foreheads does not mean setting a mark or line on their foreheads, but distinguishing them from others. Likewise in John, that they should harm the people who did not have God's mark on their foreheads. Having a mark also stands for being singled out. The same author uses a different word for a mark when he speaks of putting a mark on their hand and on their foreheads. The people of the Jewish religion represented the fact this symbolism by the binding of the first and most important commandment onto their hand and forehead, as described in Moses. Listen, Israel, Jehovah, our God, is one Jehovah. You shall love Jehovah, your God, with all your heart and all your soul and all your powers. And you shall bind these words as a sign on your hand, and let them be as broad pieces between your eyes. These represented the fact that they singled out the commandment concerning love above all the other commandments, which shows what the placement of marks on the hand and forehead symbolizes. The time to gather all nations and tongues is coming, and they will come and see my glory, and I will put a mark on them. And in David, turn to face me and have mercy on me. Give your strength to your servant, and save the child of your serving maid. Make with me a mark of goodness, and let those who hate me see and be ashamed. All this now establishes what a mark is. No one should suppose that any mark was actually placed on an individual named Cain, because the inner meaning of the word involves themes completely different from those on the literal plane. Genesis
hmm
chapter uh,
Thank you. It's the next verse. Maybe someone wants to read next.
fourth game.
hmm
Fourth game.
Yeah, your reading is very good.
Well, thank you.
Okay, it's my turn. Genesis 4:16. And Cain went out from before Jehovah, and he lived in the land of Nod to the east of Eden. Cain went out from before Jehovah means that he was cut off from the good inherent in a loving faith. His living in the land of Nod is living outside truth and goodness. Living to the east of Eden is living by the dictates of the intellectual part of the mind where love had been before. To see that going out from before Jehovah or from Jehovah's face means being cut off from the good inherent in a loving faith. Review the comments above all at verse 14. The meaning of his living in the land of Nod as living outside truth and goodness is established by the meaning of the Hebrew word Nod, to be a wanderer and a fugitive. And being a wanderer and fugitive means being deprived of truth and goodness, as you can also see above. Living to the east of Eden means living by the dictates of the intellectual part of the mind, where before love had reigned supreme. It is also living by the dictates of the rational mind, where before charity had reigned supreme. This is established by earlier statements concerning the symbolism of Eden's east, in which the east is identified with the Lord and Eden with love. Among the people of the earliest church, the mind, composed of will and intellect, was unified. The will part of the mind was everything, with the result that the intellect belonged to the will. This was because they made no distinction between love in the will and the faith in the intellect. Since love was everything and faith belonged to love. After faith was detached from love, however, is it as it was by those referred to as Cain, the will no longer ruled in any form, but because in that kind of mind, the intellect ruled in place of the will, that is, faith ruled in place of love. It said that Cain lived to the east of Eden. This was due to the singling out of faith, as just described, by the mark put on it to preserve it for the use of the human race. Uh, Who is next?
Read it.
Nobody wants to read? Okay.
Me.
Go ahead. Mhm.
Do you hear me? Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
That kind of mind, the intellect ruled in place of the will. That is,
Ah,
faith ruled.
from your reading is from 399
Oh,
Genesis,
oh,
because I
okay.
finished. Mhm.
And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and delivered Enoch. And Cain was building a city, and he named the city after his son Enoch. Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and delivered Enoch. Means that this theism and heresy simultaneously produced another called Enoch. The city that was built symbolizes every doctrinal and heretical teaching formed by it. As the theism or heresy was called Enoch, it says that the city was named after his son Enoch. Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and delivered Enoch. Oh, it is, oh, okay. Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and delivered Enoch, means that this schism or heresy spontaneously produced another. This is the obvious conclusion from all that precedes. It also makes sense in light of verse 1, which says that the human and his wife, Eve, gave birth to Cain. Later developments are similar conceptions and births, whether it is the church or heresies that reproduce themselves of these offshoots of the people. I don't
For
know.
this offshoots, the people of
Of the earliest church established a genealogy because they resemble family trees from a single heresy. Once seized upon, many others are born. I complete.
Yeah, it's your verse if you can.
The reason why the heresy and each of its doctrinal and heretical teachings is named Enoch can be found to some extent in the name itself, which means the instructions that was initiated or first undertaken at the at that time. The symbolism of the city that was built as every doctrinal and heretical teaching spawned by the original schism can be established from places in the world where the names of cities occur. None of them refers to an actual city, but some doctrinal or else heretical teaching. The angels are completely unaware of what a city continue,
Completely. The angels are completely
are
completely
completely
unaware.
unaware what a city is and what the name of any city is. They never do and never can have any mental picture of the city because all their ideas are spiritual or heavenly. As previously shown, they perceive only what the symbolic meanings are. The holy city, for instance, for which another name is Jerusalem the Holy, brings nothing else to their minds than the Lord's kingdom in general, more particularly in every individual. My connection is bad. Whom it exists. Okay. Keep it. Whom it
Whom it
exists.
exists.
The same is true of the city or the mountain of Zion. They take the mountain to be the heavenly aspect of faith, the city to be the spiritual aspect. The quality itself of being heavenly or spiritual is also depicted by cities, places, houses,
Palaces.
foundations, palaces. Oh, okay, palaces,
Mhm.
houses, walls, foundations, fortifications, gates, and the bars on the gates. And by the temple. At the heart of these examples occur in Isaiah, Ezekiel 48, Revelation 21. Okay. The name Jerusalem, the Holy, is used, and Jerusalem 31:38. David uses the name of the city of God, the sanctuary of the dwelling places of the highest one in, how do you read this?
Psalms.
Psalm.
Psalms.
Psalm. Or the city is called Jehovah, is there in Ezekiel 48:35. Isaiah speaks of it this way: "The children of a foreigner will rebuild your wall. All this spurning you will bow down at the soles of your feet." Continue.
Spurning. What is it? What is it? Spurning.
Spurning.
It's like reject, push
Oh,
away,
push away.
trample.
Okay.
Spurning.
And they will call you Jehovah's city, Zion of the Holy One of Israel. Isaiah 60:10-14. In Zechariah, Jerusalem will be called the city of truth, and Mount Zion the holy mountain. Zechariah 8:3. The city of truth, or Jerusalem, symbolizes the spiritual aspects of faith, and the holy mountain Zion symbolizes the heavenly aspect of faith. Just as city represents the heavenly and spiritual qualities of a faith, so the cities of Judah and Israel symbolizes all doctrinal teachings as a whole. Where the cities are named, each symbolizes some particular teaching. Each teaching a city symbolizes no one can know without the inner meaning. Just as cities symbolize doctrinal views, they also symbolize heretical views, and when they are named, each again symbolizes some particular view. At present, the following places will show only the city in general symbolizes a point of doctrine or a heresy. In Isaiah, on that day there will be 5 cities in the land of Egypt, speaking the speaking the tongue of Canaan and swearing to Jehovah Tabor. Tabor. One will be called the city of Heres. Isaiah 19:18. The subject here is the systematic study of spiritual and heavenly matters that existed at the time of the Lord's coming in the same author. Full of riots is the turbulent city.
Riots. I thought riots.
Riots.
What is it? Riots.
Riots. It's like
Riots.
rebellions. Yeah.
Rebellion, revolt, like turmoil.
The jubilant city. This is about the valley of vision, or about delusion. In Jeremiah, the cities of the south have been closed and there is no one to open them. Jeremiah 13:19. This is about people who are in the south, that is, who have access to the light of truth, and yet extinguish it in the same author. Jehovah has thought to destroy the wall of Zion's daughter. He makes the bulwark and the wall mourn. Together they have been weakened. Her gates have sunk into the earth. He has destroyed and smashed the bars locking them.
Smashed.
Smashed here.
What
Like
is it?
crushed.
Crushed. Crushed, broken,
Yeah.
smashed. The bars locking them.
Anyone can see here that the bulwark, gates, and bars mean nothing but doctrinal tenets. Likewise in Isaiah, this song will sung in the land of Judah. The city strong for us. Salvation will place the walls and bulwark. Open the gates, so that an upright nation in faith may walk in. Isaiah 26:1-2. In the same author, I will exalt you. I will acclaim your name. You have made the city into a heap, a fortified city into a ruin. A place for foreigners will never be
Palace.
built. A palace, a palace for foreigners will never be built from the city, to eternity. Therefore, a strong people will honor you. A city fearsome of nations will be afraid of you. Isaiah 25:1-3. Neither is the passage talking about a city in a prophecy. Edom will be an inheritance and will rule from Jacob and cause the destruction.
Fearsome. It's like about fear, but what is fearsome? City of fears.
The brave maybe
Fearsome.
up to.
It's like scary, terrifying. Fearsome.
Destruction of the remainder from the city. Anyone can see that in this passage the city does not literally mean a city in Isaiah. The empty city has been broken. Every house has been closed, so that no one will be able to enter. A shouting over the wine in the streets. Isaiah 24:10-11. The empty city stands for the empty claims of doctrine. Streets here and elsewhere mean things that are part of the city, whether false or true. In John, when the seventh angel poured out his bowl, the great city was split into three parts, and the cities of nations fell. Revelation 16:19. The great city is a heretical point of view. So are the cities of the nations. And anyone can see Revelation 17:18 explains that the great city is the woman John saw. And I have already shown to 252-253 pages that a woman is a church of the kind being described. This establishes the symbolism of a city, but because all the details have been linked into a story, people who concentrate on the literal meaning view it as saying simply that Cain built a city and called it Enoch. They can see nothing more in it, even though the literal meaning also requires them to believe that the land was well populated, despite the fact that Cain was Adam's firstborn. This is the story lines necessarily implication. As noted earlier, though the custom of the earliest people was to express everything through representative images and weave them into a narrative, this custom gave them the greatest pleasure. It seems to make everything come alive. Genesis
Mhm.
4:18.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's the next verse. Your reading is very good. And maybe someone wants to read next verse, Genesis 4:18. Okay, it's my turn then. If nobody wants to read,
They must try.
and
They must try.
uh,
They
uh,
must try. It's not only me and you here. I see many of them. 1, 2, 3, 7, 6 or 7. 6. Someone try, guys. Just try.
yeah,
It's learning English.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's it's a good way to learn. Okay,
Yeah,
I will read.
great, great.
Genesis 4:18. And Irad was born to Enoch, and Irad fathered Meh-
Michael.
Mehujael, how to
Mahujal.
Mehujael, maybe
Mahujal. Mahujal.
Mehujael, and Mehujael fathered Mehushael, and Mehushael fathered Lamech. All these names symbolize heresies stemming from the first one called Cain. Since we know nothing about them but their names, there is no need to say anything. The derivation of their names, however, yields a measure of information. Irad's name, for instance, signifies yes, signifies, maybe it's like
Signifies.
sign,
Signifies. No,
signify,
no, it signifies.
ah,
Yes.
signifies. Mhm. That he descends from a city, and so from the heresy called Enoch, and so on. And derivation,
Derivation.
Derivation.
Con-
Derivation.
conclusion, conclusion. I know what is conclusion. The heresy called Enoch, and so on. Genesis 4:19, the next verse. It was so short. Uh, who wants to read, or I will continue? Okay, because it was so short. Genesis 4:19, and Lamech took two wives to himself, the name of one being Ada, and the name of the other Zillah.
It's
Lamech
Ada.
the Zillah. Do you mean? What do you say?
The first one
Zilla.
is Ada. Ada.
Ada.
Ada.
Ada.
Do the
Ada.
pronunciation. Ada.
Yeah,
Ada. Ada.
yeah,
Yeah, not
Ada.
Ada. Okay. Yeah.
Ada.
But transcription is like Ada. Transcription. Do you see? Transcription is like Ada.
Is it
You're
in
correct.
Russian or English?
Transcription. I think it's like international transcription. We can see in Merriam-Webster dictionary, maybe, but it can. Merriam-Webster dictionary cannot say this word. Okay, it doesn't have this word. Okay, your version is Ada, yeah, Ada.
Ada.
Okay, and the other Zillah. Lamech, the sixth descendant, in order beginning with Cain, symbolizes devastation, a condition in which there is no more faith. The two wives symbolize the origin of a new church. Ada stands as the mother of the church's heavenly and the spiritual attributes. Zillah as the mother of its earthly attributes. The symbolism of Lamech as devastation or the absence of faith can be seen in verses 23 and 24 below. He killed a man for his wound and a little child for his bruise. Bruise. It's like Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee.
Bruise.
No.
Bruise. It's like injury. Hematoma.
Hematoma.
Hematoma. Bruise. The state of a church in general is such that over time it tends to ebb away from true faith. I forgot what is ebb.
Ebb.
Ebb, like fade away.
Recession.
Recession. It tends to ebb away from true faith and finally terminate without any faith. When faith is gone, the church is described as devastated or ruined. That is what happened in the earliest church among those called followers of Cain. It occurred also in the ancient church which followed the flood. It occurred also in the Jewish church, which was so utterly devastated at the time of the Lord's coming that they did not know anything about him or the fact that he was coming to save them. Still less did they know anything about faith in him. It occurred also in the early Christian church, the first church following the Lord's coming, which today is in such complete ruins that no faith remains. Even so, a nucleus of the church, nucleus, like nuclear, yeah, like
Nucleus.
nucleus, yeah, like nuclear,
Nuclear.
nucleus of the church always remains in existence, unrecognized by those whose faith has been destroyed. A remnant of the earliest church, for example, survived until the flood and continued on after it. That church remnant is called Noah. When the church was being so thoroughly devastated that no more faith remains, it makes a new start, a new light shines out. In the word, this is called morning. The reason why the new light or morning does not dawn before devastation is complete is that any manifestation of faith or charity is mingled with something profane, and as long as they are mingled, no light or charity can be introduced. Can be introduced. Tares destroy all the good seed. When there is no Taris is like a name. Yeah, Taris. It's a name.
Yeah, name.
That because no, it's not name.
Terry's.
Taris. It's like Taris. It's like bad grass in the wheat. Taris.
Oh,
Terry's.
Do you know? Yeah. What is it? Taris. I
I
can
thought
show.
it's the name.
Yeah, I I can show picture. Taris. It's about seed. Actually, yeah. I want to see Taris. It's like a wheat too, but it's not like wheat. It looks like wheat. Yeah. You see,
Oh,
wheat.
yes, yes. It's a weed, kind of weed.
Yeah, do you see on the left it's wheat, it's a good grass, but on the right it's taris. It's look like
It's
wheat, but it,
terrible weed. It's bad weed.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Like parasite. How to say parasite? Yeah.
uh,
Mhm. Parasite maybe parasite. Okay. Taris destroy all the good seed. When there is no faith, faith can no longer be profaned because no one believes what is said anyway. Those who do not acknowledge and believe something but only know it cannot profane it, as pointed out earlier. Jews these days, for instance, because they live among Christians, necessarily realize that Christians acknowledge the Lord as the Messiah that they Jews waited and are still waiting for. But they cannot profane the idea because they do not acknowledge or believe it. The same is true of Muslims and the people of unbaptized nations who have heard of the Lord. This was why the Lord came into the world at a time when the Jewish church no longer acknowledged or believed anything. The situation was similar for the heresy named Cain, which over time suffered devastation. It is true that this heresy acknowledged love, but it put faith in first place ahead of love. The further heresies that it bred gradually divided, divided, divided,
I think it's
gradually
deviated.
divided.
Deviated.
Deviated. What does it mean, deviated? Let's see.
Yeah, when
Gone the opposite way.
yeah, exactly. When it's not in accordance with.
Evade,
Evade.
evade, maybe. Okay, that it bread. Bread. What is it? Bread?
Yeah, it's give birth, kind of.
Read.
Red.
Reproduce. Thank you. That it bread gradually deviated from this. Deviated. And Lamech, the sixth in line, absolutely denied faith. When this era arrived, arrived, or
Yeah,
arrived, arrived.
arrived.
A new light or dawn emerged and grew into a new church here called Ada and Zillah, who are described as Lamech's wives. They called the wives of Lamech, who was devoid of faith, just as the inner church and outer church of the Jews, who were also devoid of faith, are called the wives in the word. This was represented in Leah and Rachel, the two wives of Jacob. Leah stood for the other church and Rachel for the inner. Although this pair of churches appears to be two churches, they are one church because the external representative church without the eternal church is simply something idolatrous or dead. The internal together with the external one on the other hand formed one and the same church as Ada and Zillah do here. Since Jacob, or in other words, his descendants were, like Lamech, lacking in faith, the church could not remain among them but was transferred to non-Jewish nations who lived in ignorance rather than faithlessness. Rarely, 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 or yeah, rarely. It's like
Rarely.
rarely or really.
Rarely.
Rarely.
Rare
Ah,
from
it's
rare.
it's without r. Rarely. Maybe in
Normal.
American, rarely. It's like occasionally. Occasionally. Unfrequently. Rarely, if ever, does the church survive among possessors. Possessors, like it's from possession, yeah? Possessors.
Possession.
They are possession of the
Yeah.
truth.
Possessors.
Thank you. Owners. Among possessors of the truth while they are undergoing devastation. Instead, it is transferred to those who know absolutely nothing of the truth because they embrace faith much more easily. There are two kinds of devastation. The first takes place with people who know but do not want to know, or who see but do not want to see. This is what Jews were like and what Christians are like today. The second kind takes place with people who neither know nor see anything because they are untaught. This is what the nations outside the Judeo-Christian tradition were like and are like today as well. When devastation reaches its final stage with those who know but do not want to know, or see but do not want to see, the church springs up anew. It does not. It does so not among that group of people, but among people whom they call Gentiles. This is what happened in the earliest church, which predated the flood. It is what happened in the ancient church, which followed the flood. It is what happened in the Jewish church. There is a new light that shines for the first time is, as I said, that people can no longer profane what is being revealed because they do not acknowledge or believe in its truth. Many times in the prophets, the Lord says that the final stage of devastation has to arrive before a new church can arise. In those places, it is called either devastation, which relates to the heavenly aspects of faith, or desolation, which relates to its spiritual aspects. It is also referred to as a culmination and a cutting off. Examples are found in Isaiah and following verses. Daniel, Zephaniah, Deuteronomy, Revelation, and following chapters. Next verse, who wants to read? Maybe Genesis 4:20 and its explanation of inner meaning. Who wants to read?
Cosmos, Fault Game, Wingate. Hey guy, someone of you read. No one wants to read.
Okay, I think it's your turn if nobody wants.
Okay.
Tell you.
Genesis 4 to 20, and Ada delivered Jabal. He was the father of the tenant dweller and of the livestock. Ada, as before, means the mother of the heavenly and spiritual aspects of faith. Jabal, the father of the tent dweller and of livestock, symbolizes teachings about holy love and good actions that result from it, which are heavenly things. Continue. The symbolism of
Go
Ada,
on.
the symbolism of Ada as the mother of faith's heavenly aspects can be seen in her firstborn, Jabal. He is called the father of the tent dweller and of livestock. These things are heavenly because they symbolize holy love and the good actions in which it results. The fact that dwelling in a tent means holy love is established by symbolism of tents in the word, as for instance in David, Jehovah, who will stay in your tent? Who will live on your holy mountain? Those walking emblemished and doing justice and speaking truth in their hearts. Please, the word blemished, what does it mean?
Blemished.
Blemished.
Unblemished, yeah? This word?
Yes.
It's like about maybe dirty. Yeah. It's like without dirt. Like flameless. Maybe in dictionary. Blemish, like to be clear, I think. Like to be clear in heart. Having no fault.
Pure. Okay.
Yeah, do you see having no fault or flaw? What is it? Flaw? Like flaw.
Flaw.
Defect in physical structure or form. Okay. Unblemished. Like who is clear? in heart, yeah?
Yeah.
Before.
Pure. Just say pure.
Mm-hmm.
This passage tells what it means to live in a tenement or on a holy mountain, which it equates with the holy ways of law. That is, with walking unblemished and I have unblemished and doing justice. In the same author, their lines has gone out into all the earth, and their discourse to the end of the world has pla- placed placed a tenet for the sun among them. Psalms 19.
Yeah, do you see? It's like this verse, like for interpretation and translation, this word as tent, because the first we think about tent in literal sense, like, but in this sense, he placed a tent for the sun among them, and you can see that it's not about physical
That's
tent
not what
because
we
it's
think.
about
Yeah,
sun. Yeah, it's like for translation. These places, like places, other places of Bible translate itself, and we should take any useful meaning of this word if you want to translate other places. Tent for the sun among them. We should
the
understand what
sun.
the meaning of sun.
Yeah, the sun here stands for love. In the same author, I will stay in your tent forever. I will feel safe in the hiding place of your wings. The tent stands for something heavenly. This hiding place of wings for something spiritual that grows out of it. In Isaiah,
Mm-hmm.
the throne has been strengthened by mercy, and he sits on it in truth in David's tent, judging and seeking judgment, and hastening justice. Isaiah 16:5. Again, the tent stands for holy law, exercised through the rending of judgment and the hastings of justice. In the same author,
Mm-hmm. Has has Hastening, it's like
Hastings,
it's about bird, like hen, yeah, on X. No, it's
translated
hatching. I mixed hatch, but hastening. Mm,
hurrying,
Hastening.
hastening.
hastening. It's like hurrying. Hurrying.
Yeah.
Bring,
The T is not pronounced hastening, hastening,
hastening,
hastening,
Hastening.
hastening.
hastening. The hastening. What does it mean? Hastening of justice. Like hurry of justice. Hurry.
Hastening of justice.
It's like the hastening of justice is like
The
uh,
implementation of justice. Maybe?
it's like to bring justice
Yes, implementation of
quickly.
justice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the same author.
Look at Zion, the city of appointed feast. May your eyes see Jerusalem, a tranquil dwelling, a tent that does not move. Isaiah 33:20. This speaks of the heavenly Jerusalem. In Jeremiah, this is what Jehovah has said. Watch, I'm bringing back Jacob's captured tents, and on his dwellings I will have mercy, and the city will be rebuilt on its own ruined mound. Jeremiah 38. The capture of the tents stands for being stripped of heavenly qualities or holy law. In Amos, on that day I will rise up David's throne,
Mound,
mound, mound.
mount, like mountain. What is mound?
Mound.
Yeah,
No, it's like hill. Yeah, it's similar with mountain, like because it's like hill, hmm because it's mound and mountain. Yeah, it's hill.
yeah. It's a part of mountain. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Little mountain.
Yeah,
I will. I will raise up David's fallen.
Column pavilion and wall up their breaches, and its ruins I will rise up, and I will rebuild it as in the days of old. Amos 9:11. The pavilion or tempered tabernacle.
Tab-
Here,
uh,
what does it mean,
taberna-
tabernacle?
Tabernacle is like pavilion.
A
Tabernacle.
tent,
Tabernacle
yeah.
is like tent for. It's like dwelling tent of God of Jewish church of Moses made it. Moses.
Here, likewise, tents for heavenly attributes and their holiness. Jeremiah. The whole earth was devastated. What does mean the pavilion?
Pavilion is a tent like pavilion.
Pavilion.
Same.
Yeah, it's like tent for selling something. Yeah, like
Tabernacle. It's the same.
pavilion.
Pavilion.
Synonym of tent.
Hall. A hall, yes.
Was devastated.
Quickly were my tents devastated. In an instant, my tent curtains. Jeremiah 4:20. And in another place, my tent was devastated, and all my ropes were torn out. My children left me, and were no longer. Is anyone stricken out my tent? Or
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
My tent curtains. It's like
curtains, like
veil.
Curtains.
Curtains.
the window, the one you put in the window. Curtains. Yeah.
My tent curtains.
Um, and setting up my tent curtain. Jeremiah 10:20. The tent stands for heavenly qualities. The tent curtains and ropes for the spiritual qualities that come from. In the same author, others will seize their tents and flocks. Others will carry off for themselves their tent. Uh, Merchants and all their vessels and the camels through Jeremiah 49:29. This is about Arabia and the children of the East, representing people who possesses holy heavenly qualities. In the same author, the Lord poured his wrath out into the tent of Zion's daughter, like fire. Lamentations 2:4. This stands for being stripped of everything sacred and heavenly about him. The reason why a tent in the word is taken to mean sacred, heavenly love is that the ancients carried out sacred worship in their tents. When they started to profane the tents with profane types of worship, the tabernacle and later the temple were built. So tents have the same symbolism as the tabernacle and the subsequent
Tabernacle.
tabernacle
Tabernacle.
as the tabernacle and the subsequent temple. A godly person is therefore called a tent, a tabernacle, and a temple to the Lord. It is clear in David that a tent, a tabernacle, and a temple mean the same thing. One thing have I asked of Jehovah, this I will seek, that I may remain in the Jehovah's house all all the days of my life, to watch Jehovah in sweet pleasure, and to make early morning visits in his temple. For he will hide me in his tabernacle on the day of evil. He will conceal in the concealment of his tent. On a rock he will lift me up, and now my head will be lifted up against my enemies all around me, and I will offer in his tent the offer in his tent the sacrifices of shouting. Psalms 27, 4, 5, 6. In the highest sense, the Lord's human quality is a tent, a tabernacle, and a temple. That is why these terms are applied to every heavenly person and to every sacred heavenly quality too. The Lord loved the earliest church more than the ones following it, and its people lived alone with each other, divided into their family. That is, holding sacred worship in their tents. For these two reasons, their tents were considered more sacred than the temple, which was eventually profaned. In the remembrance of this, the Feast of Booths or Huts was established. It took place when the people were gathering the land's produce, and during it they lived in huts as the earliest people had. Levit, how do you read it?
Leviticus.
Leviticus. Deuteronomy 16:13, Hosea 20.
Mhm. Booths. Feast of Booths. It's like tent,
Booths.
box, cabin.
Booths.
It's like tent too. Pavilion. Booth. Booth. Mhm.
I continue. The
Yeah, because
symbolism.
this is that verse you read.
uh, the symbolism of the father of livestock as good actions resulting from holy love can be seen from what was shown above at verse 2 of this chapter, that the shepherd of the flock symbolizes the good action, that charity inspires the present verse, though mentions a father rather than a shepherd, and livestock rather than a flock. And the expression of livestock dependent on father directly follows the word tent. This shows that the phrase means good actions coming from holy love. A home or fold for the livestock is the idea. In other words, it is refraining, referring the father of those that lived in tents and in livestock tents. Their symbolism as the goodness produced by the heavenly love can also be seen throughout the world, as in Jeremiah, for instance, I will gather the remnant of my flock from all the lands to which I dispersed them, and I will bring them back to their folds, so that they may breed and multiply. Jeremiah 23:3. In Ezekiel, in a good pasture, I will pasture them. What does pasture mean? Pasture.
But pasture is like
Yeah.
field where sheep eat grass.
Oh, okay. Like a
Pasture.
field.
Mhm. Yeah,
Uh,
filled with grass to to where sheep can eat grass.
Pasture.
Pasture, like green grass, filled with green grass. And I will pasture is the verb here. It's like a shepherd. I will be the shepherd.
eating. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the verb. Yeah, grace, like grace, in the sense grace.
Graze.
Yeah, because sheep graze grass.
It's like
Pasture.
taking care of them.
Yeah, yeah. It's about shepherd. Who shepherd cares about sheep.
Uh, protecting.
hmm
And on the mountain of Israel's head will be their fold. There will they lie in a good fold, and on which pasture they will graze in Israel's mountain. Ezekiel 34:14. The fold and pastures stand for the goodness that love brings about described as rich. In
hmm
Isaiah,
Do you see?
yeah,
Do you see a rich pasture on a rich pasture like very pasture with very big grass. Like
It doesn't mean
they,
rich in the literal sense.
yeah, it's figurative,
Uh,
word.
Language.
Yeah.
It's a figurative word.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, rich pasture is like it's very good field for sheep to graze, to eat that grass.
Yes. Exactly.
Hmm.
He will give rain for the seed, with which you will sow the ground, and the bread, the produce
Bread.
of the ground, the bread, yes, and the
It's bread.
the literal sense, bread,
Hmm.
the one we eat, the bread. It's not something
Yeah.
else. Yeah.
Every day we eat bread.
The produce of the ground will be rich with fats and oil. He will pasture your livestock on that day in a broad meadow. Isaiah 30:23. The bread symbolizes what is heavenly, and the richness on which the livestock will graze symbolizes symbolizes the good actions that result from it. In Jeremiah, Jehovah has ransomed Jacob, and they will come and sing on Zion's heights and stream together toward the goodness Jehovah has bestowed and on wheat and on a new wine and oil and on the offspring of the flock and herd and their soul.
Ransomed, as
Bestowed
ransomed.
also, redeemed.
Ransomed.
Redeemed. It's like paid
It's exchange. It's
a
like an
cost.
exchange.
Yeah. Redeemer. Like
Bestowed.
Jehovah is our
Bestowed.
ransomed.
Can you see bestowed? What does bestowed mean?
Bestowed. Mm.
Jehovah has
Ah,
bestowed.
bestowed. I think it's
Yeah,
bestowed.
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 Bestowed,
Given.
like given, grant, like granted, endow. It's
Yeah.
like to get grant, like gift. hmm Bestowed. It's a good word. hmm
Will be like a watered garden. Through Jeremiah 31:11-12. This depicts Jehovah's holiness as wheat and oil, the good actions coming from it as new wine and as offspring of flock and herd, livestock. In the same author, shepherds and the flocks of their livestock will come to the daughter of Zion.
Livestock is like flock too, yeah, and herd.
Yeah, but the grassland.
Ah, no,
Livestock.
livestock is like cattle. Actually, flock. Yeah, flock is like a lot of, and herd is like a lot of sheep, for example. But livestock is like cattle population, like cattle. Yeah, actually, it's about it too. Animal farm animals. Yeah, and herd too. Livestock is herd. Yeah, it's like the same thing.
They will fix their tents near her all around. They will each graze their space. Jeremiah 6:3. The daughter of Zion stands for a heavenly type of church, whereas as associated with both tents and flocks of livestock. More evidence that the intended meaning is holy and is holy law, and the good actions that come out of it can be seen in the fact that Jabal actually was not the first of those that lived in tents and livestock pens. Abel, the humans, uh, Abel, the humans, and Eve's second son, is also called a shepherd of the flock And Jabal is the seventh in line from Cain.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Who,
yeah.
who wants to read next? Maybe Genesis 4:21.
I read
Yeah, go ahead.
Genesis 4:21. And the name of his brother was Jubal. He was the father of everyone playing the harp and the organ. Then the name of his brother was Jubal. It symbolizes teachings about spiritual things in the same church. The, the father of everyone playing the harp and the organ symbolizes the true ideas and good deeds of faith. The last verse dealt with heavenly things, which belongs to love. The current verse deals with spiritual things, which have to do with faith. These are these are expressed by the harp and organ, the symbolism of strings, instruments, harps, and the like, as the spiritual qualities of faith is evident from many things. It is exactly what the same kind of instruments represented in the worship of the representative church, and what vocal music represented as well, which is why there were so many singers and musicians. The underlying reason is that all heavenly joy makes the heart cheerful, and the cheer was attested to in song that had string instruments added to echo and enhance it. All the heart's emotions carry with them the tendency to spill out in song, and so in the accompaniment to a song. The feeling in the heart is heavenly in nature. The song it inspires is spiritual. The symbolism of the songs and other kinds of
Uh, and enhance it.
Enhance.
Enhance. It's like
improve.
strengthen. Intensify, improve. It's like it's about music, like string instruments added to echo and enhance it. Okay, because like instruments help us um, to feel good, maybe like this. hmm
uh, Music as something spiritual is clear to me from angels' choirs, of which there are two kinds, heavenly and spiritual. The singing of the spiritual choirs has a sound reminiscent of beating wings that can be compared to the sound of stringed instruments, which makes it easy to distinguish them from heavenly choirs. They will be described later with the Lord's divine mercy. The earliest people, moreover, assign
sound reminiscent. What is it? Of
reminiscent,
beating.
Reminiscent.
Reminiscent,
remembering.
like remembering, resembling, reminiscent of beating wings. Okay. Like the singing of the spiritual choirs has a sound reminiscent of beating wings that can be compared to the sound of stringed instruments. Okay. Got it.
Assign anything of a heavenly nature to the heart's uh, province, and anything spiritual to the lungs, province. In this way, they associated spirituality with any use of the lungs, such as for vocal music and so on. As a result, they associated it with the voices or sounds of wind instruments. The reason was not only that the heart and the lungs represent a kind of marriage, as love and faith do, but also that heavenly angels belong to the province of the heart and spiritual angels belong to that of the lungs. The presence of these meanings in the current verse can also be seen from the consideration that the word is the Lord's but would be devoid of life if it were merely telling that Jubal was the father of those who play the harp and the organ. Nor would it be useful to anyone to know this.
Mhm. Devoid of life. Devoid.
Devoid.
It's like
Lacking.
deprived. Lacking. hmm
Just as holy love and the good actions that it gives rise to are heavenly things. The true ideas of faith and the good actions that faith gives rise to a spiritual things. The function of faith, after all, is to understand not only what is true, but also what is good. Religious knowledge involves both, but to be the kind of person that faith teaches us to be is a heavenly thing. As faith involves both truth and goodness, they are symbolized by the two instruments, harp and organ. And a harp is a stringed instrument, as everyone knows, so it symbolizes spiritual truth. An organ, though it is midway between a string and a wind instrument, so it symbolizes spiritual good. The word mentioned various instruments, e- each of each each of which has its own symbolism. This will, by the Lord's divine mercy, be explained in the appropriate places. For the moment, let me restrict myself to the following in David. I will offer in Jehovah's tent the sacrifices of shouting. I will sing and make music to Jehovah. The tent expresses the idea of something heavenly, and the shouting, singing, and music making something spiritual that grows out of it. In the same order, sing for joy in Jehovah. You who show justice for the upright, praise of him is beautiful. Give thanks to Jehovah on a harp, on a ten string lute, make music to him. Sing him a new song. Make your
hmm 10-string lute. It's like guitar, I think. Yeah, but lute. Maybe I want to see the picture of
like
lute.
flute, like
Mhm.
flute.
Yeah, lute. Uh, do you know? Do you know how it looks like?
Ah, okay.
It's like guitar. Lute. Yeah,
Like
this is
ukulele,
lute.
you know that.
Mm, yeah, it's lute. I didn't see it. It's like guitar. hmm Okay, 10-string lute. Make music to him. Sing him a new song. Make your.
Strumming excel in its clamor, because Jehovah's word is upright, and every work of his is done in truth. This stands for religious truth. Everything said applies to that truth. Spiritual things, which are the truth and goodness involved in faith, were celebrated by harp and lute. by song, and by similar music. The holy or heavenly aspects of faith were celebrated by wind, instruments, horns, and so on. This is why so many instruments were connected with the temple, and why it says so many times that certain instruments were used in celebrating this thing or that. So the instruments are taken to mean the every qualities themselves that the instruments were honoring, as those just uh, as those just discussed are. The same author. I will give thanks to you on the lute, your truth, my God, I will play as music to you on the harp. Holy One of Israel, my lips will sing when I make music to you, as will my soul, which you redeem. This too is about religious truth in the same author. Answer Jehovah with thanksgiving. Make music to our God on a harp. The giving of thanks here is about the heavenly aspects of faith, which is why the name Jehovah is used. And making music with a harp is about the spiritual aspects, which is why the name of God is used in the same author. Let them praise Jehovah's name in dance. On tambourine and harp let them make music to him. The tambourine stands for good, and the harp for truth, which the people are praising in the same order. Praise God with the blare of a horn.
What is tambourine? Let's see the
Tambourine's
picture.
like a small drum, I think. Tambourine? No, is it?
Ah, yeah.
No,
Mm-hmm.
no, yeah, yeah, no.
Tambourine. Okay. And the blare, blare of a horn.
Blair.
It's like sound. Roaring.
Praise him on lute and harp. Praise him on tambourine and in dance. Praise him on strings and organ. Praise him with loud cymbals. Praise him with shouting cymbals. This stands for religious goodness and truth, for which the people are offering praise. Do not imagine that so many instruments,
Cymbals, maybe cymbals or
cymbals
cymbals.
or cymbals,
Ah,
Symbols.
cymbals. Cymbals. Yeah. Cymbals is like. Yeah, it's symbols. Yeah, it's symbols like. Do not imagine that so many instruments.
instruments would be named if they did not each symbolize something in the same order. Send your light and your truth, let them lead me. Let them bring me to your holy mountain and to your dwelling places. And I will go in God's altar to the gods of my happiness and joy. And I will give thanks to you with the harp, God, with the harp, God my God. This thing stands for knowledge of goodness and truth. In Isaiah, take a harp, circle the city, strum well, multiply your singing in order to be remembered. These types of music, oh,
Strum.
strum,
Uh,
Strum.
play,
yeah, play softly. It's like play on guitar, strum. Play on like string instruments.
Jingle.
Jingle. Jingle. Strum. These types of music.
stand for the attributes of faith and of religious knowledge. Still more clearly in John, the four living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each of them having harps and golden bowls full of pieces of incense, which are the prayers of the godly. Anyone can see that they did not have harps, but rather that the harps symbolized re- religious truth, and the golden bowls full of incense symbolized religious good. In David, in Psalm 42:4 and 69:30, the music made by the instrument is called praise and thanksgiving. Else here, in John, I heard I heard a sound from the sky like that of many waters. I heard the sound of harpists strumming on their harps. They were singing a new song. And in another place, men were standing next to the glassy sea, having God's harps. In it is noteworthy that angels and spirits
Mhm.
distinguish.
Noteworthy. Mm.
Noteworthy.
It's like two words here, like worthy and notable. It's like mhm, worthy of attention, remarkable, noticeable, noteworthy. Mm-hmm. It is distinguish.
Distinguish sounds on the basis of differences in goodness and truth. They do this with the sounds not only of singing and instruments but also birds, and they refuse to listen to any but those that harmonize. The result is this concord between the sounds and so the instruments on one hand and the nature and essence of good and truth on the other.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Concord. Concord.
Concord.
Agreement. Harmony. Mm-hmm. Uh, the next verse. Who wants to read? Maybe Genesis 4:22. Okay, I'll read. And Zillah in turn delivered Tubal Cain, who trained every artisan in bronze and iron. Artisan, train, trained. Ah, it's
Artisan.
like craftsman. Mhm. Master, artisan in bronze and iron. And Tubal Cain's sister was Nama. Zillah, as noted, means the mother of the earthly aspects of the new church. Tubal Cain, who trained every artisan in bronze and iron, symbolizes teachings about good and truth on the earthly level. Bronze symbolizing earthly good and iron earthly truth. Tubal Cain's sister Nama symbolizes another similar church or teachings about good and truth on the earthly level outside the bounds of the church. The way things stood in this new church can be seen from the Jewish church. It was composed of an inner church and an outer church. Heavenly and spiritual qualities made up the inner church, and earthly qualities the outer. The inner church was represented by Rachel and the outer by Leah. Jacob, however, or rather his descendants,
Jacob,
were Jacob.
not car. Yes, nice.
Mhm. Uh, do, do you want to read maybe? Jacob, however, or rather his descendants, who are meant by the name Jacob in the word, were such that they had no interest in anything but outward acts, that is, external worship. Jacob received that Jacob received Leah before Rachel, and Leah, with her weak eyes, represented the Jewish church, while Rachel represented a new church among non-Jewish nations. So the mention of Jacob in the prophets can be taken in both ways. One, when the corrupt, corrupt Jewish church is symbolized, and the other when the true external church among other nations is symbolized. When the inner church is meant, it is called Israel. These things with the Lord's divine mercy will be dealt with later. Tubal Cain is described as one who trained every artisan rather than as a father, the way Jabal and Jubal were earlier. The heavenly and spiritual attributes are deeper qualities of what new church had not existed before. And since these first came into being at the time, Jabal and Jubal are called the fathers. But the earthly attributes or superficial ones of the church had previously existed, although at this point they are connected with those new inner things. So he is called not the father, but the trainer of an artisan. An artisan in the word symbolizes one who is wise, understanding, or knowledgeable. Here, where it is an artisan in bronze or iron, it symbolizes those who know about earthly goodness and truth. In John, for example, Babylon, the great city, will be overthrown with vehemence, and it will not be found any longer. What is vehemence? I cannot translate this word. Vehemence, maybe I can translate. Vehemence. Mhm. Ve.
Swedenborg,
Okay.
It says
Yeah.
passion.
bro, you still reading it,
Yeah.
bro? When you gonna finish that shit?
Vehemence.
Vehemence. Uh, do you want me to finish this book
Yeah, I want
faster?
you to finish it. I want you to read
Mm,
another book, bro.
but I don't know, because when I will finish this book, I will read next book.
You know, because you always, your all book that you read is from Swedenborg. Bro, stop reading Swedenborg, bro.
Okay, I
Go
understand
read
you.
Schopenhauer, bro. Go read like Nietzsche.
Fair
Go
punish.
read Shakespeare. Go read like another shit, bro. But Swedenborg every day, it's crazy.
What do you mean by every day? I read 3 hours a day.
3 hours a
What are
day.
you talking
See,
about? Yeah, you can read in the next hours. What are you talking
bro,
about,
three
man?
hours a day for Swedenborg is crazy, man.
This channel is free every day. This channel is free, but I read 3 hours a day. What are you talking about, man?
I'm
There are a lot
saying,
of other channels, but you came here and you're talking these strange things. I don't understand what you're talking about.
bro, you're
Are
amazing,
you kidding?
man.
Are you kidding at me?
What?
Okay, I will. I mean, it
Bro, you called me
looks like
gay?
you're kidding. Yeah, you're kidding. You're kidding. I'm talking.
Oh, I'm kidding. I thought
Kidding?
you
I
called
mean,
me gay.
you're kidding at me. I don't understand what you're talking about. Okay,
I mean, I
if you
say
if you
keep
want
it up,
if you
bro.
want
Keep it up.
if you don't want to read, you can leave. But I don't understand you. Actually, I am reading this book. Okay.
Read it, bro. Go on, bro. Let's go. Keep it up, bro.
Mhm,
Okay? Never give up.
mhm, Thank you. Thank
Keep it, bro.
you.
Read it.
The, an artisan in the word symbolizes one who is wise, understanding, or knowledgeable. Here, where it is an artisan in bronze or iron, it symbolizes those who know about earthly goodness and truth. In John, for example, Babylon, the great city, will be overthrown with garments, and it will not be found any longer. And the sound of harpists and musicians and flutists and trum- trumpeters will not be heard in it any longer, and no artisan of any art will be found in it any longer. Mhm. Harpists stand for religious truth as they did above, and trumpeters for religious good. Trumpeters.
Trumpeters.
Trumpeters for religious good. An artisan of any art stands for one who knows about truth and goodness, or for the knowledge itself. In Isaiah, the artisan casts a statue, and the metalsmith, metalsmith,
Metalsmith.
metalsmith overlays it with gold and its molding chains of silver. An idolater seeks out a wise artisan to prepare a statue in hopes that it will not be toppled. Toppled.
Toppled.
Toppled. It's like fall down. Mhm. Toppled. The artisan stands for what? Sorry.
Excuse me.
Mm. Toppled. The artisan stands for those who concost. What is it? Concoct? Concost?
Concoct.
Concoct. It's like cook up. Who concoct falsity, the statue for themselves out of their illusions, and teach it in a way that makes it seem true. In Jeremiah, while they are becoming foolish, they grow stupid. Their education in worthless things is a piece of wood, silver beaten with silver beaten, 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 beaten maybe.
Beaten.
Beaten. Silver beaten thing is brought from Tarshish, gold from Euphas, the work of the artisan and of the metalsmith, hence blue violet fabric and clothing, all of them the work of the wise. These things symbolize a person who teaches falsity and who collects spiritual passages to use in molding a fiction. This is why it is called an education in worthless things and the work of the wise. Such people were once represented by artisans who cast idols, false cities that they embellish with gold, embellish,
Embellish.
embellish, like decorate. They embellish with gold and imitation of good. silver and imitation of truth, and blue violet fabric and clothing things on the earthly plane that seem to harmonize. The world is still unaware that bronze symbolizes earthly good and that every metal named in the world is a symbol for something in the inner meaning. Gold, for instance, symbolizes heavenly good, silver symbolizes spiritual truth, bronze, earthly good, iron, earthly truth, and so on with all the rest. The same is true for stone, and wood. The gold, silver, bronze, and wood used in the ark and in the tabernacle symbolize these things, as do those used in the temple, all of which will be taken up later with the Lord's divine mercy. These symbolic meanings shine out in the prophets. In Isaiah, for example, you will suck the milk of the nations, and you will suck the nipple of monarchs. Nipple.
Nipple.
Nipple. It's like breast. You will suck the nipple of monarchs. For bronze I will bring in gold, and for iron I will bring in silver, and for wood bronze, and for stones iron, and I will make peace your property and justice your taskmaster. This is about the Lord's coming, his kingdom, and the church whose character is heavenly. For bronze, gold means heavenly goodness in place of earthly goodness. For iron, silver means spiritual truth in place of earthly truth. For wood, bronze means goodness on the earthly level in place of goodness on the bodily level. For stones, iron means truth on the earthly level in place of truth gained through the senses. In Ezekiel, Javan, Tubal, and Meshach were your dealers in human souls and vessels of bronze. They sold as your trade goods. The subject here is Tyre, which symbolizes those who have spiritual and heavenly riches. The vessels of bronze stand for earthly goodness. In Moses, a land whose stones are iron, and from its mountains you will mine bronze. Here, too, the stones stand for truth gained through the senses. Iron stands for truth on the earthly plane, or truth in the rational mind, and bronze stands for good on the earthly plane. Ezekiel saw 4 living creatures, guardian beings, with feet gleaming like the appearance of burnished bronze, where again bronze symbolizes good on the earthly level, because a person's foot represents the earthly level. Daniel likewise saw a man clothed in linen, and his hips were circled with the gold of Euphas, and his body was like Tarshish. Tarshish. It's like,
Tarshish.
I don't know what does it mean. His arms and his feet were like the appearance of burnished bronze. The bronze snake mentioned in Numbers 21:9 represented goodness present in the Lord on the level, on the senses, and on the earthly plane. See the earlier discussion. The symbolism of iron as earthly truth is established not only by the places just cited, but also by Ezekiel's words concerning Tyre. Tarshish was your dealer on account of the vastness of all your affluence. Vastness, maybe vastness.
Vastness.
Vastness. It's like boundlessness. It's like vastness of all your affluence, abundance, wealth, all your affluence for silver, iron, tin, and lead they sold.
Tin.
Tin. hmm It's like metal, tin, and lead they sold. Tin. Yeah, tin. Lead they sold your merchandise, Dan and Javan and Miyuzal for your trade goods, gave polished iron, cassia and calamus were in your market. Calamus. It's
Hi
like
guys.
spice. Hello.
Ah, what is the program of the name?
It's Ridera. This is program. This program. Ridera.
Ridera.
For Android.
Okay, thank you.
It's if you want to read, you can read next verse when I will finish. Maybe.
There is
From
no
this,
Ridera in iOS.
uh, maybe you can find any another reader. It's like a book reader. If you type book reader, like electro to read electronic books.
But I want that when I click on some words and I want to see the translate.
Uh, you can see. Do you see it's EPUB format file. It's like electronic book, and if you type reader of EPUB format, you'll find like.
All right.
From this from these verses and those before and after them in the same chapter, it can be seen clearly that heavenly and spiritual riches are being symbolized, and that each item named means some specific entity. So do the personal names. The Lord's word, after all, it's spiritual, not mere words. In Jeremiah, will anyone crush iron? Iron from the north and bronze. Your resources and treasures I will turn into plunder in exchange, not for a price, but for all your sins. Iron and bronze stand for earthly truth and goodness. What comes from the north symbolizes the level of the senses and the earthly level, because the earthly level, in respect to the spiritual and heavenly level, is like northern darkness in relation to southern sunlight, or it is like a shadow which Zilla, Tubal-Cain's mother, also symbolizes here. Plainly, the resources and treasures mean heavenly spiritual riches. In Ezekiel, take yourself an iron griddle. What is griddle? It's like to
Griddle.
griddle. It's about grill.
Grill.
Iron griddle, and put it as an iron partition between yourself and the city, and set your face toward it, and let it be for a siege, and tighten the siege against it. What is tighten?
Titan.
Tighten. Tighten. It's like drag. Clearly, iron symbolizes truth here. Truth is considered strong because nothing can resist it. So iron, which symbolizes truth or the virtues of faith, so is said to crush and bruise, as in Daniel. Crush and bruise.
Bruise.
Bruise, like break. Bruise. To those who conquer, I will give authority. Conquer. I will give authority over the nations to shepherd them with an iron rod, as if clay pots were being crushed. Mhm. In the same author, the woman delivered a male child who is to shepherd all the nations with an iron rod. An iron rod is the truth in the Lord's word, as John himself explains. I saw the sky opened, when look, a white horse, and the one sitting on it was called the faithful and true, and he judges and fights in justice. He was dressed in a garment dyed with blood, garment dyed. What is dyed?
Died.
It's like painted with blood, and his name is called God's word. From his mouth issues a sharp saber.
Saber.
Saber. It's like sword. And with it he will strike the nations, and he will shepherd them with an iron rod. Mhm. Next verse, Holland Street, Genesis 4:23.
Every
Yeah, go ahead.
Genesis 4 and Lamech, how to
Lamech,
pronounce
maybe.
Lamech.
Lamech, I think.
Lamech.
Lamech. Lamech.
Lamech.
Lamech.
Mhm. It's not like chi, but Lamech, I think.
And Lamech said his wives, Ada and Zillah, listen to my voice. Wives of Lamech, and let your ears receive my son, because I killed a man from my wound, and a little child from my boobs. Lamech as before symbolized devastation. He said to his wives, Ada and Zillah, that they should receive with their ears what he said, is an
I think
admission.
this man is very noisy because of his microphone. I almost don't hear you. Maybe can you turn off your microphone if you don't treat this this man, because do you see his microphone is working. Hoka guy Gok. Yeah, can you turn off your microphone, because I don't hear a
Okay,
reader
okay,
who read.
sorry. Okay, sorry.
Because it's noisy, and Discord cuts voice of reader, like in Gene. Voice engine.
With their
Mhm.
ears, what he said is an admission of guilt, which is made only where the charge exists, the charge being symbolized by his wives. As mentioned, he killed a man for sin means that he destroyed faith, a man symbolizing faith as before. Killing a little child for his bruise is destroying charity. The wound and the bruise meant that nothing was sound any longer. The wound meaning that faith had been abandoned, and the bruise meaning that charity had been wiped out. The contents of this verse and the next show clearly that lame symbolizes devastation, since it says that he killed a man and a little child, and that Cain will be avenged 7 times, and Lamech 77 times. The symbolism of a man as faith can be seen from the first verse of this chapter, in which Eve delivered Cain and said, I have acquired the man Jehovah. This meant the doctrine concerning faith, which was called the man Jehovah. It can also be seen from earlier remarks, showing that a man symbolizes the intellect, since the intellect is connected with faith. From this, it is apparent that Lamech also destroyed charity, which is called a little child, because anyone who denies or murders faith also denies and murders the charity that is being born through faith. And the word a little child symbolizes innocence and charity too, since true innocence is not possible without charity, nor true charity without innocence. There are three levels of innocence, and in the word they are identified as babies, toddler, toddlers, and children. Because true innocence is impossible without true love and charity. Three levels of love are symbolized by the same three age groups. Those levels are a tender love like the kind babies have for their mother or wet nurse, a love like the kind toddlers have for their parents, and charity like the kind children have for their teachers. Isaiah contains an example. The wolf will stay with the lamb, and the leopard will lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion and the fattened animal will live together, and a little child will lead them. The lamb, kid, and calf stand for innocence and love in their three degrees. Wolf, leopard, and young lion stand for the opposite. The opposite. Salt stands for charity. In Jeremiah, you do great evil against your own souls, cutting off from yourself man and wife, toddler and baby in the middle of Judah, so as to prevent a remnant from remaining to you. Man and wife stand for the intellectual properties of truth and the will-oriented properties of good. Baby and infant stand for the first levels of love. The identification of babies and children with innocence and charity stands out clearly in the Lord's words in Luke. They brought babies to Jesus to touch them. He said, allow the little ones to come to me and do not stop them, because these are the kind who make up God's kingdom. Truly, I say to you, whoever does not accept God's kingdom as a child does, will not enter it. The Lord himself is called a little child in Isaiah 9:6, because he is innocent self himself, and he is there said to be
Miraculous.
miraculous and counselor, God, hero, eternal Father, Prince of Peace. Okay, I'm done.
Hmm. Thank you. Who wants to read next? Hmm.
I read.
The wound.
Oh.
Yeah, go ahead. Hmm.
The wound and the bruise mean the fact that nothing was sound any longer. The wounds specifically meaning that faith had been abandoned, and the bruise meaning that charity has been wiped out. This can be seen from the fact that the man is associated with the wound and the child with the bruise. Isaiah uses the same words to depict the above abandonment of faith and destruction of charity. From the sole of the foot right to the head, there is no soundness in it. Wound, bruise, and fresh blow, not pressed out and not bandaged, and not softened with oil.
Pressed or pressed?
Pressed.
Pressed.
Oh, pressed. I thought it's pressed. Pressed.
The wound is used for faith abandoned, the bruise for charity wipe out, and the blow for both. Both. Shall I continue?
Yeah, okay. Because it was short.
Genesis 4:24. For Cain will be avenged 7 times, and Lamech 77 times. These words mean that they wait, obliterated the faith meant by Cain, although there was a sacred ban on the violation of it. And at the same time, they obliterated the charity that
Obliterated, like maybe obliged. Obligation, yeah? Obliterate. Ah, no.
deleted,
Obliterated.
destroy,
Yeah. Destroy. Obliterated, like just delete. And avenged.
revenge, avenge,
Ah, revenge. Avenged, revenge.
Avenged.
Avenged, revenge. Copy that. Next.
charity that was to be born through faith. Charity being far more sacrosanct,
What is it? Sacrosanct. Sacrosanct.
sant,
It's
Sacrosanct.
like sacred, holy. Sacrosanct.
sacrosanct. The result was domination, which is what being avenged 77 times is. For the meaning of Cain will be avenged 7 times as the placement of a sacred ban on violating the detached faith meant by Cain. See what was shown at the verse 15. The symbolism of 77 times as being far more sacrosanct and resulting in domination can be seen from the symbolism of 77 times. 7 is a holy number because the seventh day symbolizes the the heavenly person, the heavenly church, the heavenly kingdom, and in the highest sense the Lord himself. Therefore, the number 7 means something holy or sacrosanct wherever it occurs in the word. The holiness, or how I pronounce this, Hen
Hey, hey,
Henon
nonsense.
Heno
Nonsense. I,
Henons
I think it's hey nouseness. Hey nouns. Hey nouseness. Let's check it out.
Heinousness.
heinousness,
Mhm.
Heinousness.
Heinousness is like abomination. Disgust. Disgust. Anything disgusting. Abomination. Heinousness.
heinousness
Belongs
belongs to
to.
the qualities under discussion and is determined by them. 70 is also holy because it covers 7 ages and age in the word be, being 10 years. When anything extremely holy or positively sacrosanct was expressed, the words 70 times, 7 times were used. The Lord, for instance, said that we should not forgive our brother or sister up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. This means that we should forgive as often as our brother or sister sins, without limit, or to eternity, which is holy. The fact here that a vengeance would be taken 77 times means damnation, because violation was absolutely forbidden.
Thank you. Maybe someone wants to read next. Genesis 4:25. Mhm. And the human knew his wife again, and she delivered a son and called his name Seth, because God has restored other seed for me in place of Abel, since Cain killed him. The human and his wife mean the new church, previously symbolized by Ada and Zillah. The son, whose name she called the Seth, symbolizes a new faith that will allow charity to take hold. God has restored other seed in place of Abel. Since Cain killed him means the charity which Cain separated and extinguished has now been given to this church as a gift by the Lord. The meaning of the human and his wife as the new church previously symbolized by Ada and Zillah is not something anyone can know or figure out from the literal sense, because before now, the person and his wife symbolized the earliest church and their descendants. But it can be seen from the inner sense. It can also be seen from verses 3 and 4 of the next chapter, which say again that the human and his wife gave birth to Seth, though in completely different words, where he symbolizes the first generation to inherit the earliest church. If the symbolism were no different in this verse, there would be no need to repeat it. In the same way, the first chapter told of the creation of the human, the earliest vegetation, and the animals, and the second chapter did likewise. This was for the reason already given that the first chapter spoke about the creation of the spiritual person, and the second about the creation of the heavenly person. Wherever this kind of repetition concerning the very same person or thing is encountered, it's like meet, encounter, yeah,
Encountered.
meet, discovered, encountered. One occurrence has a different meaning from the other. What the meaning is can never be known except from the inner sense, although the actual thread of the story confirms it. Besides human and wife, wherever they appear, are words symbolizing the church under discussion there in its role as a progenitor. progenitor.
Progenitor.
Progenitor, like as ancestor, founder.
Precursor.
Precursor, angenitor, progenitor. Mhm. The symbolism of their son, whose name she called the Seth, as a new faith that will allow charity to take hold, can be seen from statements made earlier and from the verse saying that Cain had a mark placed on him to prevent his murder. The chain of events is this. Faith that had detached from love was symbolized by Cain. Charity by Abel. This detached faith put an end to charity as symbolized by Cain's murder of Abel. Faith was preserved to enable the Lord to instill charity by means of it, as symbolized by Jehovah's putting a mark on Cain to keep anyone from killing him. Afterward, it was by means of faith that the Lord endowed people with holy love and the goodness that comes from it, symbolized by Jabal, who was born to Ada. He also granted them the spiritual gift of faith, symbolized by Jabal's brother Jubal, and through this he imparted earthly goodness, imparted, like impart. Mhm.
Imparted.
Imparted like transmit. Mhm. Inform, transmit. He imparted earthly goodness and truth symbolized by Tubal Cain, who was born to Zillah. These two verses bring the story to a close and so sum up the state of affairs, which is that the human and his wife symbolize the new church previously referred to as Ada and Zillah. Seth symbolizes faith through which charity is implanted, and in the next verse, Enosh symbolizes the charity implanted through faith. The symbolism here of Seth as a new faith that will allow charity to take hold is explained by his name, in that he was so called because God restored the seed in place of Abel, since Cain killed him. God restored other seed means that the Lord gave people another kind of faith. Other seed is a faith that allows for the growth of charity. For the symbolism of seed as faith, see above it. Mhm. Who is next?
I can read.
Go ahead.
Genesis 4:26. And to Seth in turn a son was born, and he called his name Enosh. Then people began to call on the name of Jehovah. Seth symbolizes a faith that allows for the growth of charity, as noted. His son, whose name was Enosh, symbolized a child that considered charity to be faith principal concern. Then people began to call on the name of Jehovah, symbolizes worship from charity, and that the symbolism of Seth as a faith that allows for the growth of charity was shown at the previous.
Go on.
Yeah, I'm done this page.
Okay. Sorry.
Previous verse. The symbolism of his son, whose name was
Mhm.
Enoch, as a church that considered charity to be faith principal concern can also be seen from earlier statements. In addition, this can be seen from the fact that the child is called Enosh, another name meaning person, not a heavenly person, but an individual with a spiritual nature, who is Enosh here. It can be seen from the very next words as well. Then people begin to call on the name of Jehovah.
Go on. Because we read verse by verse. We read not from sections, but from verses in this book, because sections are short, but verse is better to read. And it's your verse to read, like explanation.
The symbolism of then people begin to call on the name of Jehovah as worship from charity in that church can be seen from the fact that invoking Jehovah's name is a ritual common to all worship of the Lord. The fact that the worship is based on charity is established by the use here of the name Jehovah, the last verse spoke of God, and by the the fact that the Lord cannot be worshipped except from charity. Faith that doesn't come from charity doesn't lead to worship, because it lives only on the lips, not on the heart. The word makes it clear that calling on Jehovah's name is a common practice in all worship of the Lord. Take these words about Abram. He built an altar to Jehovah and called on the name of Jehovah. He planted a grove and Beersheba, and there called on the name of Jehovah, the God of eternity. That it is an element of all worship is indicated in Isaiah. Jehovah, the Holy One of Israel, has said, "You have not called on me, Jacob, that you should have wearied of me, Israel. You have not brought me the animal of your burnt offerings, and sacrifices. You have not honored me. I have not made you serve me with your minha, nor wearied you with frank. What is it? Frank.
Frankincense is like incense, like yeah.
Frankincense.
It's like let's see the picture. I think maybe we can see the picture. It's like maybe it's any tree. Like yeah, frankincense. Yeah, it's like this. It's like it's maybe very expensive thing, like frankincense, organic frankincense, like this. Like this, maybe like perfume. Perfume, any kind of perfume. And, what is minfa? Your minfa, or what is it? I don't know what is it. Maybe we can see the picture. I don't know. It's like no.
Beatrice.
I don't know what. Translator doesn't have this word like dictionary. And we, what is this?
Wearied.
Wearied. Wearied, like tire. Wearied.
Weary.
Okay.
This provides a summary of all representative worship. This was not actually when people first started calling on Jehovah's name, as is fairly clear from the information above concerning the earliest church, which more than other churches revere and worship the Lord. The fact that Abel brought an offering from the firstborn of his flock is further evidence. So calling on the name of Jehovah here means nothing else than the worship of the new church after the previous one had been destroyed by those called Cain and later Lamech. From evidence given in this chapter, it is clear that in the earliest era, there were many theologies developed outside the church, and many here, what is it?
Heresies. It's like false cities, like any false teaching. Heresies.
And many
Heresy.
heresies, each of which
It sounds like heresies,
Heresies.
like schism. Heresies.
heresies, each of which had its own name. The thinking behind these independent theologies and heresies was much more profound than in modern times because the people of the time were by nature deep thinkers.
Yeah, then we finished that chapter, and it's like next chapter. I think I will read it tomorrow because today this reading is over. And
All right.
goodbye.
Bye. See you
Have to,
tomorrow.
yeah, goodbye. See you.
See you tomorrow, everyone.